The honourable member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My original question was precipitated by a visit to my office by local mayors from my riding. They were concerned that the Columbia River Treaty needed to be renegotiated, that their communities and many others in the region have spent a great deal of effort consulting with affected and interested parties about this critical issue, and they were concerned that the federal government remained silent on the status of negotiations. The original treaty was enacted in 1964 and has had a huge impact on southeastern British Columbia. 600 square kilometers were flooded, over 3,000 properties expropriated, 1,380 people forced to move. First Nations rights and title were completely ignored. Wildlife habitat was devastated. On the positive side, the treaty has provided electric power for many parts of BC and the north and western United States, and the Canadian entitlement has been a financial benefit to the BC government. The treaty is set to expire in 2024, and we are in a period where renegotiation should be taking place. Some of the important issues are, of course, Indigenous rights, completely ignored before. Continued compensation for Canadian services and impacts. My constituents continue to be impacted by the dams and reservoirs created by this treaty. The Americans will want more services and water and will ask for a reduction in compensation. They'll want more water for domestic, industrial, and agricultural purposes. And constituents in the Okanagan are concerned that the American orchard industry has gone up 100 times since the original treaty because of the irrigation. The future of flood control in both countries is up to question. Ecosystem values, including the possible reintroduction of salmon into the Upper Columbia. Improved coordination of water levels in the Koocanusa Reservoir and the Arrow Lakes. People in Nakusp feel like they're living next to a bathtub. The water goes up and down so much. They want stable water, full pool levels in the summer when they need it for tourism and recreation. What we want to know is where talks stand between Canada and the U.S. on this critical subject. The previous American administration said on October 7th they were ready to start talks with Canada. But since December 22nd, when I first rose on this question, of course, much has changed in the political landscape of the United States. But the new Foreign Affairs Minister met with Secretary of State Tillerson this week, and now we hear the Prime Minister will be visiting Washington next Monday. And I would hope that he will raise this issue as one of the agreements that are of mutual benefit to both Canada and the United States.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my friend and teammate with FC Commoners for raising this issue and giving me a chance to reply. En tant que résident du bassin hydrographique élargi, mon collègue comprend l'importance qui revêt le traité sur le fleuve Columbia pour la région. Le traité sur le fleuve Columbia, conclu entre le Canada et les États-Unis, est un accord sur la régulation des crues et la production d'électricité qui est entré en vigueur en 1964. The objective of this treaty was the creation of benefits that are to be shared equitably between Canada and the United States, and this remains the goal. Based on the geography of the basin, it made sense to build 3 dams and reservoirs on the Canadian side that would provide flood protection and increase hydropower generation in the United States. In exchange for this benefit to the U.S., British Columbia received a one-time payment of $64 million for flood protection for 60 years. The province also receives 1/2 of the incremental electrical power generated at U.S. hydropower facilities from the managed flows of water from Canada, which currently sits at around $100 to $200 million per year. In its more than 50 years, the treaty has protected our neighbors and helped provide hydroelectricity for basin residents on both sides of the border. I should also add that due to water storage and the managed flows, other benefits have also ensued. These include flexibility to allow for stable water levels for irrigation, navigation, and recreation. This amounts to benefits beyond those explicitly covered by the current treaty. Now, Mr. Speaker, we are at a crossroads in the life of the Columbia River Treaty. A provision in the treaty allows either Canada or the United States to terminate it after 60 years, which, as my honourable colleague mentioned, would be in 2024. Both countries have conducted reviews to determine what its future should be. On the Canadian side, British Columbia, which through the 1963 agreement with Canada holds most of the obligations and benefits of the Columbia River Treaty, has led the review. The United States recently completed its review and has indicated a desire to begin negotiations on the treaty's future. And to begin negotiations, we need first to develop our negotiating mandate. Until then, we continue to pursue informal discussions with our U.S. counterparts and intensify our side-by-side engagement with the province, with First Nations, and local Canadian communities. Let me reassure the member opposite that we are and will continue to work closely with those local communities, with First Nations, and with the government of British Columbia on the future of this treaty. Monsieur le Président, j'aimerais ajouter que lorsque le traité a été négocié pour la première fois, il y a 60 ans, les Premières Nations touchées n'avaient pas été consultées. En raison du traité et des mesures prises sur le fleuve Columbia au cours des décennies précédant le traité sur le fleuve Columbia, les Premières Nations et les résidents du bassin ont été témoins de la perte de terres de grande valeur et les sites culturels, ainsi que de l'élimination de la migration au saumon. Les impacts continuent à se faire sentir sous la forme de tempêtes, de poussière et de pertes de plages et de possibilités récréatives. Une autre chose, même si nous ne pouvons pas retourner en arrière et changer ce qui est arrivé, cette fois nous négocierons un nouveau traité sur le fleuve Columbia en comptant sur la participation active des Premières Nations et des résidents du bassin. Again, I thank my honourable colleague for re-raising this issue.
The honourable member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the Parliamentary Secretary for that discussion. It's, you know, with all the talks of tariffs against softwood lumber, border taxes, potential trade wars with the United States, I would just hope that the government would take this issue as an important opportunity to build some goodwill and commence renegotiation of this treaty with the new U.S. administration. It's a win-win for both sides. The current situation brings a lot of uncertainty to it, and I understand that our government can't do much about the uncertainty created by our friends south of the border, but it can control the uncertainty that it is created by being so quiet on this issue in Canada. It's been months since the United States first made their intentions known, even if they might have changed somewhat now. But we have had silence from the Liberal government, and right now my region needs reassurance from this government that they are serious about renegotiating the Columbia River Treaty and listening to the interests and concerns that have been registered by local consultations. Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I thank my colleague again for raising those concerns. If I could add a few more points as it relates to the Columbia River Treaty. Le gouvernement du Canada et du Colombie-Britannique ont collaboré très étroitement sur le traité. Et pour le Canada et la Colombie-Britannique, l'objectif relatif au renouvellement du traité sur la fleuve Columbia consiste à veiller à ce que les avantages du traité soient partagés équitablement entre les Canadiens et les Américains. Bien que la Colombie-Britannique ait profité de certains avantages financiers découlant du traité, elle a toutefois subi d'importantes répercussions. Des terres productives ont été inondées, des sites de Premières Nations d'importance culturelle ont été inondés et chaque année, nos résidents du bassin sont touchés par les importants flux et reflux des niveaux du réservoir. Our officials have met with representatives from Basin First Nations and have committed to working closely with them as we move forward negotiations with the United States. Again, Mr. Speaker, the objective of this treaty was the creation of benefits that are to be shared equitably between Canada and the United States, and that remains the goal. Thank you so much.